It started with a barking complaint. 1. That's all it took for the HOA to put a target on my back like I was some kind of suburban fugitive harboring a warhound. In reality, my menace to society was Luna, a 38-pound rescue mutt who thought squirrels were out to end democracy. But 5 days after moving into Willow Creek Estates, I had a certified letter taped to my door saying I was in violation of community bylaws. They said Luna was a nuisance animal. Apparently, one woman's jog at 6 a.m. was briefly interrupted by a bark. And that was enough for the board, or more specifically, a woman named Carol, to declare war. Look, I get rules. I'm a contracts analyst. I eat rules for breakfast. But what I don't get is weaponized pettiness dressed in khakis and pearl necklaces. I had moved here thinking it'd be peaceful, maybe even friendly. But I was about to get a crash course in HOA politics, where the leash laws are longer than the patience of the people enforcing them. I bought the house with my wife, Jen, after years of renting. We wanted a quiet neighborhood, somewhere to start fresh. Luna was part of that fresh start. She helped Jen through chemo. Yeah, the dog literally saved my wife's sanity. She's not a nuisance. She's family. But Carol didn't care. Carol had never met a grudge she didn't love or a dog she didn't judge. The first meeting with the HOA felt more like a trial. I sat across from the board, facing a stack of complaint forms, 95% written by Carol, and heard things like chronic noise pollution and emotional disturbance to fellow residents. I asked for specifics. They said Luna's bark was too aggressive for a family environment. Meanwhile, 2 houses down, the Johnson's Rottweiler sounds like a police siren with PTSD, but he's on the approved list. That's when I realized this wasn't about noise. It was about control. Carol had clocked me day one as someone who didn't attend potlucks or compliment her holiday wreath, and that was enough to put me on her non-compliant homeowner list. Then came the notice: 14 days to remove the animal or vacate the premises. Yeah, eviction. Over a rescue dog. In America. I'll be honest, I was furious, but also curious. Curious just how legal this was. So I did what any mildly ticked-off analyst with a background in contract law would do. I started digging. HOA bylaws. Printed and highlighted. Local ordinances. Reviewed. State-level protections for emotional support animals. Oh yeah, bookmarked, annotated, and copied into a binder thicker than Carol's fake French accent. Then I found it. The golden nugget. Their clause on nuisance animals explicitly excluded registered emotional support animals backed by a licensed therapist's letter. Luna was registered 2 years ago. I had the documents. They never asked. I sent the board a polite, meticulously worded email attaching the legal documentation, my wife's doctor's letter, and a copy of the HOA's own bylaws. I added a note. Please consider this a formal notice to cease and desist any attempts to evict based on unlawful application of bylaws. No reply. 3 days later, Carol showed up on my front lawn, arms crossed like she was posing for a villain origin story. You're not exempt from community harmony, Mr. Bennett, she spat. I smiled. And you're not exempt from federal housing laws, Carol. That night, I got another letter. This one wasn't from the HOA, it was a notice of hearing. They were trying to take it to arbitration. Here's the thing about arbitration, it can go either way. But I had facts. And I had a friend, or rather, a surprise ally. Remember Mrs. Dempsey? Sweet older lady down the street who walked with a cane and always wore those floral hats? Turns out she used to be a civil rights attorney. She overheard Carol gossiping about me at the community garden and decided she'd had enough of playground bullies with clipboards. She knocked on my door the night before the hearing and said, "Honey, you let me sit in on this? I've been waiting to roast Carol since 2016. Game on." At the arbitration, I sat across from the board in a too-cold conference room smelling of stale coffee. Carol came in wearing her usual superiority like a scarf. She started talking about the sanctity of community tranquility and how Luna was disturbing the collective peace. I let her talk. Then I stood, handed the arbitrator a neat folder, and began calmly walking through the violations. Improper notice, failure to disclose exemption policy, discrimination based on medical accommodation, and a potential violation of the Fair Housing Act. Then Mrs. Dempsey leaned in. She asked the board, "Do you have any documented proof that this dog poses a threat, other than one woman being woken up at 6 a.m.? And for context, Carol, that woman was you, wasn't it?" Carol's face went full tomato. She stammered something about leadership responsibility, but it was over. The arbitrator ruled in my favor, declared the eviction threat unenforceable, and added a formal recommendation for the HOA to revise their enforcement process to include legal review. But I wasn't done. I filed a complaint with the state HOA oversight agency citing abuse of power and personal harassment. I also posted the full story with redacted names on the Willow Creek Facebook group. Turns out, I wasn't alone. 5 other families chimed in with similar Carol stories. Petty fines, threats, made-up citations. One woman said Carol fined her for having unapproved flower colors in her front yard. That's when the real storm hit. The next HOA election, Carol lost her seat, not just by a little, by a landslide. And guess who was nominated to replace her? No, not me. Mrs. Dempsey. She got voted in unanimously and started her first meeting by proposing a bylaw transparency initiative and a quarterly review of leadership conduct. And as for Luna, she still barks at squirrels. But now, when she does, the neighbors smile. One even brought her a squeaky toy shaped like a squirrel with a tiny HOA badge on its chest. Funny how things turn around. People love a good underdog story, especially when the dog's actually a dog. What do you think? Was Carol just enforcing the rules, or did she take it too far? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this wild ride, hit that subscribe button and share your ideas for the next crazy HOA showdown.